Welcome everybody to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top-ranked real estate investing podcasts for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your host for the show, Elliot, the REI guy, Smith.
What's going on, Real Dealz podcast listeners? Coming at you with a new episode this week. I think you're really going to like it if you're in this business with a spouse or you have a partner and you're just trying to work through it and trying to learn as much as you can moving forward. So we have a couple from Seattle. They are highly recommended from my buddy Jared Holland, who was on the show a couple months ago. So they have been crushing it. They have 2 kids. Both of them are in the business. They're both doing things. They're active. But there's also some challenges, as I've talked about before, with working with my wife. So really personally enjoyed this podcast, but hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. Even if you're single, they talk about a lot of different things in real estate and all these things that they've been doing and how they're protecting their downside and also what they're doing right now. Sounds like they're pushing the gas when everybody else seems to say the sky is falling. So anyway, that's a good segment into what's going on right now. So not a ton new with us. We're getting ready to close on our 16 unit, which will be our last big purchase for a while. We just have a ton of rehabs going on the multifamily side. So taking a little break, and interest rates and all the craziness is also adding to that as well. So I went and did some research the other night because every article and every YouTube video that I see is basically real estate's crashing. Real estate's crashing. The market's going to crash. 2008 all over again. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay. Everybody has been saying before this, oh, there's not enough inventory, fundamentals, blah, blah, blah. Well, then all of a sudden interest rates hit 5%, 5.25%, and people are like, the sky is falling. So everybody wants to call one way or another. Again, I always follow Ivy Zellman. I really like her. So I think there's still some opportunities in the market, but I also wanted to do some research I think I did about 10 different markets that I went through and just figured out what was their appreciation from 2015 to 2020. And then what was their appreciation from 2020 to 2022, currently right now. I thought this would be a good way to look at it. And then also I went and figured out what the median income, the increase in the median income, household income, et cetera, what that was to see if they can keep up. So, and then I also went through and wrote down every January since 2015, the mortgage rate as of that January. If you're looking for this information, the Fed has a lot of great content. You can go there and basically see everything you want. Redfin Data Center, I love that. There's a ton of information on there. You should be studying your market right now more than ever. So, a couple of the markets that are concerning that I've thought about in my area, Spokane would be one of them. Boise would be another. They've ran up so much. Spokane had never been that type of market. Like, people didn't move to Spokane. There's not a ton of jobs, not a ton of industries. And even a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were talking because I saw that the median home price in Spokane was $425,000. Crazy to me. What was it? 3 years ago, I think it was $235,000, 3 or 4 years ago. So that's huge over there. And they don't have a ton of industry. Their number one industry is agriculture. So what we did is we did this on a drive, and it was kind of frustrating for her. But we went and said, okay, say we're 2 teachers, or we're a teacher and, a half of a salary of a teacher. In Spokane, the median salary for a teacher was $58,000. In Tri-Cities, where I live, which is very similar on the median house prices, the median was $78,000. That doesn't make any sense, right? How can it be so expensive there and teachers get paid that much less? And across the board, that's how it was in Spokane. A lot of the industries were just getting paid a lot less than they were just 2 hours south here in Tri-Cities. And they have a lot of manufacturing, transportation, agriculture. They do have some state jobs, but that still didn't add up to enough. So really worried about that. Boise, they kind of got really lucky in the very early of the pandemic that people started moving there. But then all of a sudden, I think 2021 hit and the transition went from Boise to like Sunbelt markets. So people stop going to Boise as much. I mean, they're still going there. That's why houses are driving up so much, but it's just not sustainable because they're not adding a ton of industry. Tri-Cities has also grown up quite a bit. I think 50%, something like that. They don't have Redfin information on Tri-Cities, but they're very similar in their sense. But we also have Hanford, which is a government $2.5 billion contract. They have the VIT plant, which is taking nuclear waste from the Hanford area and turning it into glass. And they're not actually doing that. It's just a huge money pit to build the place to do it, which was supposed to be done 10 years ago and now won't be done for another 20 years. But there's also Lockheed Martin, there's Battelle, Bechtel, Energy Northwest. There's all these industries. There's defense contractors. There's Pacific Northwest Laboratories. All these industries that are government funded, like research, defense contractors, energy, things like that. So we have a lot of higher paying jobs here. Also, we have a lot of hospital stuff here. There's a lot of medical. School districts are big, and their average median salary is really high compared to other places in the state. So I feel like we're a little bit better. I don't feel like we're perfect by any means, but I think we have a lot more opportunity to not crash as hard or go down as hard. So we'll run through this list. Seattle market, 48% from 2015 to 2020. 53% from 2020 to 2022. Crazy. Denver, 45 and 48. Austin, 71%, but then it slowed down to 29% from 2020 to 2022, which is kind of weird to me. Phoenix, 60% for the 5 years, and then 50% for this last two. Nashville, 52 and 46. Dallas, 56 and 37.5. Jacksonville, 49 and 54. Vegas, 51 and 54. Spokane, 64 and 41.5. Boise, 63 and 86% in the last 2 years. That is not a typo by any means. So that's crazy. Tampa Bay, they went 46 to 73%. So that's crazy, right? Spokane or Boise and Tampa just scream at you like, man, something's not right there. Now, on those two markets though, Boise went from a median house price of $325 to $530 in 2020. I just wrote this down one night doing chicken scratch. So rates have been anywhere from 3.67 in 2015 all the way down to 274 in 2021. This is January, by the way. And then back up right now, 2019 it was 4.46. 2022 was 3.45 in January, and then it's been up in the fives recently. But it's actually starting to come back down a little bit. Now, what's the reason for the very sharp increase? I think I've talked about it a few times, the Federal Reserve. Now, the Fed raised interest rates, but that doesn't dictate the mortgage interest rates in the market. What that does is it makes borrowing more expensive so people can get a better return somewhere else. But the Fed also stopped buying mortgage-backed securities in March. I think it was March. So here's a crazy stat, and I'll kind of digress from this because this really deserves a whole podcast, but I just wanted to talk about it because everybody's probably seeing this. In Seattle in January 2015, the monthly payment for a median house price was $1,651. In January of 2022, the median payment was $3,168. Now here's the kicker. In April of 2022, the median payment was $4,553. It jumped up from $710 median housing price to $840 in those 4 months. Now the question is why? Well, interest rates. People saw interest rates were changing really quick, so they just like, okay, if we're gonna buy a house, we're gonna buy it now. And so they basically just pushed everything in and prices went up. The great thing about this podcast today is they're actually agents as well. They're investors and they work with a lot of investor clients, but they also work with retail clients, and they give some feedback of what they're seeing in the market from the listing side and from the buying side. So this pairs well, I think, really, really well with this podcast today. So what do? Well, you still go off market and try to find good deals. I'm basically saying, let's set our ARV at September, October, August of last year. I feel like that's pretty solid. Real estate would have to drop 20% to get back to that price target. I don't think it's going to do that. I think in some areas it could, but there's not going to be enough people selling their property because so many people have a mortgage under 4%. why sell unless you have a life event? So I talked about this on a previous podcast, so go back and listen to that one if you have any questions about thoughts on the mortgage market and why I don't think they'll go down. People take these clickbait headlines and they say, this is fact, right? Just the other day, CoreLogic says real estate was up 20% in March. Yeah, it was because we just told you why, right? Because people are trying to get in before that. But then they'll say the market's crashing, inventory is up 50%, all these things. Well, 50% from half a month of inventory to 1 month of inventory or 0.75 months of inventory isn't a huge thing when a balanced market is 6 months of real estate on the market. So I highly implore you to spend time studying your market, getting in the numbers, looking at these things, figuring out where you can be safe, finding pockets, finding opportunities that you can add value and, as a rental or as an Airbnb, as we'll talk about today, have exit strategies. Make sure you're not putting your last dollar in there. I saw a guy today post on Bigger Pockets Facebook page that they had this house, they were going to refi it, burr it, all this money in it with a hard money loan, but he didn't remember that he co-signed on a loan with an ex-girlfriend and she won't call him to get it off. Well, he has no exit strategy other than sell it and pay all his capital gains taxes and then have no place to live. So make sure your ducks are in a row. This is a time to be very careful. Make sure you're taking care of your private lenders. This is a great time to find private lenders if you have some experience because they're getting wrecked in the stock market and it's very volatile. Find some people that maybe had some Bitcoin, right? There's a lot of volatility and you can still show in rental real estate consistency, and it's a hard asset that if you understand the market, you can sell people and say, this is a safe bet unless the world just goes bonkers, right? Unless the stock market just crashes completely. Tech, like in Seattle, tech jobs get just cut in half. That's really highly unlikely. So hope you guys enjoy this show today. Get in your market. I can't stress it enough. Get in your market, learn your numbers, learn your zoning, learn your areas, learn value lines. You will thank me down the road. Hope you guys have a great week. Chat with you later.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
What's going on, guys? We got Jess and Michael Haas here. They are local Pacific Northwest investors. They are agents. They have yurts in the mountains. They have Airbnbs. They sell to investors. They do all the things in real estate investing. And the best part is they're a husband and wife team. I have not met another husband and wife team for a while now, and I know how challenging that can be, so we're going to get into that a lot as well. So guys, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Elliot. Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Nice.
We're happy to get a husband and wife bit with you, since we could probably use your advice as much as you could use ours.
Sure.
I don't know. We still fight to this day about certain things, and we are like as separate can be right now. So not in like personal, but like in the business. Like Chrissy runs everything after we buy it, and then I do everything before we buy it, and then everything is very separated.
Yeah.
So cool. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, maybe individually and then separate, and then how long you've been married, and we'll get into it.
Yeah. So Michael and I are actually high school sweethearts. We met in high school, and we came up to the Pacific Northwest together. Michael went to UPS in Tacoma, and I went to UW. Michael studied business and economics, and I studied civil engineering.
Yeah, so we've known each other for a pretty long time. We did not grow up in real estate families. We did not really do anything in real estate until later in life. During college, we had a good friend and actually the pastor at our church started borrowing money from doctors, lawyers, accountants, anyone who had extra cash.
The pastor?
Yeah.
Investor, yeah.
He was our pastor.
Our pastor.
Yeah.
But he was also an investor.
Yes.
Yeah, because he made
because they don't make any money.
30 grand a year as a pastor and has kids and wanted to have a little bit more than that spending money. So, I mean, he was gobbling up deals on the courthouse steps. This was like 2009, 2010. And he was like, guys, you got to get into this real estate investing thing. This is gold. And we blew him off, and we blew him off for probably about 3 or 4 years. And then in 2012.
Oh, bad timing.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
We got going in 12. So, I mean, realistically,
You're doing pretty good.
We've taken advantage of this run up decently well, but have kind of learned a lot through that process. We both worked day jobs for the longest time. Me with my marketing company selling wine, Jess as a civil engineer. I was the first one to kind of give in and go full time in real estate. I got my license for my own deals and pretty quickly had friends and friends of friends and people knocking on my door and calling me and saying, hey, I want to buy an investment property. My agent doesn't know what he's doing. Can you consult with me on this? Can you help me do what you and Jess are doing? And at that point, I just started saying, well, I'm an agent. Do you want to
Nice.
together? And that business grew to the point where it was clear that it was the more profitable use of my time than my wine marketing company.
How much were you making a year at the wine job?
Oh man, so we moved to California. I took from a consulting gig at Microsoft where I was making pretty good money. I took like a $15 an hour sales job, cold calling people to sell cases of wine. Luckily, I got promoted and I started making like $42,000 a year.
Why did you move for that job?
Oh, we moved just to be closer to family. It wasn't because of the job or anything, but yeah.
Yeah. Jess's dad passed away sadly and kind of suddenly. So Jess's mom lives in California, so we moved to be closer to her.
Yeah, both their families
for
were
a
in
few
California,
years.
so we're like, let's go back to California. And then we're like, after a year there, we're like, this sucks, And so
Where in California was it?
it was in Napa Valley. So it's like a small wine town. It's called St. Helena, and it's a town of 5,000 people. And there are absolutely no young people in that town, except for the people who work in the restaurant industry. But
so unless you want the party to start Sunday night at 1 a.m. when those guys get off work, you will have no friends.
Yeah.
I vividly remember us watching a Seahawks game at a bar, and these guys were talking about how there's no young people in St. Helena. And we're like, yeah, there's no young people in St. Helena. How old are you guys? And they're like 45.
Yeah.
And at that point we were 25. So we're like, okay.
Yeah, time for us to go. Let's go back.
That's like Tucker, my buddy. Tucker just moved to Naples, Florida, and like the average age is like 68. But so kind of, get it. So
when we came back to Seattle, so we were in Seattle for college. We bought a house right after college. We're house hacking it, renting it to our old college friends. And when we moved back to California, we sold our house and in Ravenna by UW. And that is like one of the biggest regrets that we have, selling that house. But it's also one of the biggest learning lessons that we had, because we thought at the time that we couldn't rent it. Like we wouldn't make enough money renting it. So when we came back to Seattle the second time, we're like, well, let's buy houses that we never have to sell. And that's kind of been our MO this whole time, is buying real estate that we're, always is going to make money,
Yeah. That's interesting. When we moved from Tri-Cities to Vancouver, my wife and I, for my job, my dad said, we were like, do we sell my wife's house? She bought it at 20, or do we rent it? We weren't sure. And my dad's like, that would be a perfect rental because starter 2-bedroom. And it has been a fantastic rental up until this point. So we're very glad. Probably a little bit different equity gains than right next to UW. But, we were having the same questions because you just don't know at the time, right? I mean, everybody else would sell it. I have some friends that they had a house and they were selling it. It was their first house. I'm like, dude, keep it as a rental. Great rental. And they're like, no, we're going to make $8,000 on this. We need it to pay off our car or whatever. That house is now more than doubled. It's probably, they had owned it for like $135,000. It's probably worth $350, and they would been a great rental. They kicked themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about order of magnitude. I think we made about 12 grand on that sale, and the house, at least according to Zillow and Redfin, which is a whole nother story whether they're accurate. The house has appreciated $600,000.
Ugh, yeah. But you are where you are, and it's a lesson, right? I wish I could have kept every house we wholesaled, but you get where you get, and you're here now. So, all right, so you quit your job, but you were making good money as a civil engineer, I'm guessing.
I was making okay. It's on the totem pole of engineer status. It's definitely towards the bottom.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's water, sewer, garbage, or not water. It's like stormwater, sewage, like all those kind of things exterior to the home. That's what civil engineers do.
So you're the city permit office. You're doing permits. You're the one that says, no, you need to do this. No, this doesn't work. Hey, you need to add this for stormwater. You're the one that everybody hates because you take too long.
Yeah. Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Why do you guys take so long, by the way? Right? Like, why does it take so long?
You don't get paid well, and nobody wants to do that job. So a lot of people just don't stick around in that industry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then when did you actually officially quit your job? Jess?
I quit my job, ironically, at the beginning of the pandemic because they wouldn't let me work from home.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Now, what did you guys have going for you? Like, did you have a big savings? Did you guys have a bunch of properties at that point? Like, what did you have that made it okay for you to take the leap? Like, what gave you the confidence?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit more nerve-wracking when I quit my job than when Jess quit her job, since when I quit, we were just kind of deciding that real estate was something we wanted to invest in more heavily. And she was making okay money. I mean, civil engineers, you're talking 70 to 100K, which sounds like a big number in a lot of parts of the country, but in Seattle is
not a lot of money at all.
I was making, on my startup, I was making like 45,000. It was not a great startup. It was not paying me a lot of money. When I quit, we had 3 properties: our primary residence, a short-term rental little cabin on West Seattle, Alki Beach area that we had on Airbnb, and a monster home that we call Money Cat because it just prints money. An 8-bedroom house with 3 kitchens right up on the hill.
Where's that at?
Beacon Hill, North Beacon Hill, walking distance to the light rail. So we just get buckets of young professionals in there, all paying $800 a month per room. And that thing just prints money. So that house was definitely one of the kind of springboards to us having the flexibility to quit our job, because before I guess after we moved out, we were cash flowing like almost $2,000 a month
on the 8-bed.
Yeah, on the 8-bed.
When did you guys buy that one?
2016.
What did you pay for it?
We paid $532
on market.
On market, fixer. At that point, we were scrappy and young, so we fixed all like 3,800 square feet of it up for like $38,000. So we're spending $10 a square foot doing the whole thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, young and scrappy. I remember those days. I'm definitely not. I love how you say when we were young and scrappy, because I'm definitely not anymore. It doesn't sound like you are either.
Oh no, we've got a house that's smaller that we're spending $380,000 on right now because we just want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Hire everything out.
This is also before kids. So we have 2 kids,
Yeah.
one that's a 3-year-old and one in 8th month. And I think once we had our first, we're just like, all right, you can't do anything when you have a kid and you're working on houses. So
yeah,
they want to do everything with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have 2 kids? You said?
Yeah.
Nice. 3-year-old and 8 month?
Yeah.
Well, we have a 3, you see him back there. He's 3.5.
Yeah.
And he wants to do everything. So
yeah.
Yeah. It's fun though. They're funny. So, all right. So you got that one. And so you were able to quit your job. And then what did you do when you kind of quit your job? Like, what was your role? What were you stepping into?
Yeah. So I was part of one of those brokerages that kind of didn't really do anything for you and didn't really charge you anything to be there. So I didn't have any kind of mentoring. I didn't have any kind of coaching. I didn't have any kind of lead gen going on. So I just started hitting people up on Bigger Pockets and answering questions and just networking a ton. And I got my first couple of deals just from kind of early stage investors that saw that we had 3 properties and we were kind of walking the walk and wanted to work with an agent to buy rentals or really house hacks around here is a huge part of our business since we have so many mother-in-laws and auxiliary units in Seattle.
Yeah. Do you guys still use BiggerPockets to find people? I mean, I love BiggerPockets from when I was early investor. I don't ever go on there anymore now.
I don't either, but the cool thing about BiggerPockets is it's a lot like a podcast or a YouTube channel. It's evergreen content. Like I get people that send me a message on BiggerPockets about stuff I posted in like 2018.
So Jess, what about you? When you, in 2020, you said, peace out, I want to work from home, COVID, I'm going to quit. What was your role going into the company in the investing side of it when you guys jumped in?
Yeah, at that point, we had a couple houses at that point, and we had the short-term rentals that Michael was managing, the long-term rentals, and then also like all the construction with our rehabs. And so Michael, as he was getting into like doing more real estate agent stuff, I was kind of taking over those three parts of our business because managing contractors at the time, when we were starting off, we were doing a lot of the work ourselves. Then it kind of switched to like more handymen, like getting handymen in and doing the rehabs. And then it's kind of switched into hiring actual contractors. But managing handymen takes a lot more work. They do it for a lot cheaper, but there's a lot more hand holding that has to go on with that. And so doing the short-term rental, like messaging, getting the processes set up, hiring cleaners, managing the handyman contractors, and then I was doing the long-term rentals, which is not a lot of work, but yeah, still a little bit. So I was taking over that part of the work. And
so you're doing more the operation side of it, like kind of like we talked about, my wife does. She handles all the operations and I handle all the investors, the sales, buying the properties and raising money and then finding the money to, like, if we're getting loans. And then once we close on it, she takes everything else. So that's kind of similar to you guys?
Really similar. Yeah. I'm a hunter, so I'm great at getting clients. And then my biggest fear is when I land a client actually having to take care of them, or when I land a house actually having to rehab the thing and get it rent ready. I like landing it a lot more than the actual work.
Funny story. We have a flip that we bought in January. It's our only flip going on right now in Tri-Cities. And my wife's like, hey, I'm too busy with all these multifamily deals we're rehabbing. You have to do this. Well, we just started texturing last week, and it's now, what, June? So I have probably done hardly anything on that deal because it's just not me. Like, I might have, gone and checked in on the handyman or the guys we had in-house, right? Said, hey, how's it going? Looks good. Take some pictures. But my wife ordered all the materials. She managed all the timelines, all the budgets, all those things. And it's like, this is not me at all. Like, I'm realizing going back, like, I've actually never flipped a house all by myself. Like, I hate this. Like, it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Picking up finishes is fun. Yeah. I like doing that part.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've got a little bit more overlap, it sounds like, than you and your wife, probably just because of my, whatever you want to call it, ego, narcissism, that I feel like I need to be involved in every part of the deal, even the parts that I'm not as effective at. But that's a whole nother story and an opportunity for growth, I think.
So I had that as well, like when we were doing just flips, and it was basically like, I would go check in on the contractors. I would cut checks. I would do these things. And I felt like I'm involved, right? I'm making some decisions about take this wall out or do this, all these things. Once we started growing the multifamily stuff, there was a point where my wife's like, get away from me. I want to do the 24 unit. Like, I want to plant this flag because I was trying to take over and act like I was doing something when I really wasn't. And so at that point, I'm like, fine, you take over all the rentals. And we just found out that whenever we have overlap, we just fought a lot more because we see things so much differently. And once I could get my ego out of it and say, I'm actually kind of being the stay-at-home dad right now. I'm taking Monty to daycare. I'm picking him up from daycare. I'm doing the laundry. I'm cleaning the house. Because we don't have anything in the pipeline to buy, and we're kind of just stabilizing stuff. Once I was able to get my ego out of it, like, it ran so much better because my wife is very, very good. I mean, she's running 140 units right now, $3 million in rehabs over 3 different properties. She's hiring superintendents. We just fired a superintendent just quit that probably would have got fired. So she's doing a lot of things really well, and I'm just getting out of her way. And then once I did that, she has a guy that's mentoring her, that our partner that's done this already out of Kirkland. She's doing bi-weekly calls with him, and she's actually growing on her own instead of me being like, hey, you should do this, or you should talk to this person, because they never want to do it when you have a suggestion, because they're like, no, I can do this myself, right? And so been very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there's something said
It's hard
for staying in your lane.
Yeah, it's so hard though, because it's like now I have to go on a national podcast and be like, hey, I'm doing the laundry and mopping the floors right now because I'm not needed. It's like I've been the guy for 6 years, and so it's very hard in that sense, but it's actually getting us to our ultimate goal a lot faster. If we just say that's our ultimate goal, I need to get out of the way to get there faster. So not to preach at you guys, but that's just, you know.
Yeah, no, that was definitely something that we struggled with a lot in the beginning because Michael was managing the short-term rentals, long-term rentals. And so I would be like, why'd you do it this way? You know, and I would get super upset and angry. And like, I almost was like, let's take it off VRBO. This is so annoying. I hate VRBO. But he was like, no, calm down. You'll figure it out. Like, it just takes a little bit of time to like figure out the VRBO platform, but it's worth, after looking at the numbers of VRBO, like, because Airbnb is great, but when looking at the VRBO numbers and how much our business is coming from each platform, like both of them generated business, and it's better to have it on multiple platforms than to just have it on the one. Yeah. And so it was definitely difficult at first to work together, but even now it seems like we're even working together more now. So we actually hired a property manager for our long-term rentals back in October, partly because we wanted to advise our clients on what it's like to have a property manager, and two, because we had our second baby and I was like, I can't do all this anymore. I had got my license in July and to help Michael out with some of the clients, and so I was like, I can't do all four of these things. And so we had hired a long-term property manager, and now I'm taking on the listings while Michael is handling the buy side of the clients.
Gotcha. Have you found it difficult, Jess, on your side to say, I can't do this, or no, I don't have enough time? Because I know that's been a struggle in our world quite a bit. My wife says that with like her license, like she has a license too, but it's just to list our stuff. And I'm like, hey, here's a client. She's like, no, I don't have time. I'm like, that's free $10,000, right? She's like, no, I don't have brain power or time.
I actually think you're pretty good at that.
Maybe it's like a woman thing.
Yeah.
We're just like, we know what our capacity is, and it's like we just need to stay there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and I think also it's an ego thing too, right? Like I'm like, oh, I can handle it. Even on the phone the other day, we were talking to another agent, and Jess just said like, hey, I don't really use this form, so I don't really know how it works. And after the call, I was like, you can never tell anyone that you don't know what you're doing. And she's like, no, you can. Like, it's okay to just say.
I was like, I don't understand this form, and I want to do the best by my client and make sure I understand and I know how to advise them. And if I don't, I need to go educate myself, and I need time to educate myself. So I didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah. And I think I think Jess could probably learn some things from me around like how to like,
be very careful what you're going to say right now. Be very careful.
No. The like sales side of the business, right? The like how you interact with people and what kind of perception they have of you after it, and whether they like kind of like, know, and trust you.
But why? Why does she need to do that? That's the question. Why does she need to be an agent in the first place? That would be my main thought process, because there's an overlap. Why not just go hire a buyer's agent and you just be a listing agent and let her be a mom and then just be really, really good at the things that she's doing? That's fine. Well, be really good at the things that you want to do, and then, but just grow that side, because that's what we found. My wife, even if I try to get her to go talk to people or ask, it would just gave her anxiety. So it's like, why? If I'm already they call me the rainmaker or whatever on my personality test, like, why? If I'm already really good at that, why don't I just take the things that I suck at and she does those,
Yeah, I think you're a little bit more social than you would need to be or you have too much of that social gene, I think, to be 100% like back office operations. Running the business. I think you do like talking to people, right?
Yeah.
It's a balancing act. I mean,
it's so hard, and I'm just asking questions because Chrissy is kind of our COO, but asset manager. So like, I'm the guy that comes up with all the ideas, thousands of ideas. She hates them, wants to, she says no a lot, right? But like, once she says yes, I get to drive these things and bring them to her, but she gets to also plan and be strategic, and she still talks to contractors. She gets to talk to other partners and team members. So like, she deals with our investors after we're done. So she's still in the people business, but like, she's getting to be the one that manages the assets and be able to like take my vision and dream and like make it a reality and like make it doable, right? That's, I think, manage all the chaos, right? Because there's so much chaos, right? Like, sounds like, Michael, like you and I like to create chaos. We're the hunters, right? We're looking at everything, like throwing stuff at the wall and see if it sticks. But then I need to find somebody that says that's too low on the wall, even if it did stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. That's definitely something that.
Yeah, Jess is definitely
Killer of
the
deals.
bumpers. The bumpers on my bowling.
Yeah, we call
You
it
kinda
the
keep
leash.
from-
We call Chrissy the leash.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should talk to her.
Yeah, and
Let's have a complaint session, maybe.
Yeah.
What did
Not
Michael
really.
do? What did Elliot do this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's part of it, is kind of recognizing that I need a leash sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
That was very hard for me.
And similarly, I need somebody that's going to have big ideas, right? That's going to push me to do something, to go buy a $80,000 cabin that doesn't have running water or electricity or what else? Septic.
Yeah,
We're under contract for a deal right now that was a firm no from Jess. And I just pitched it so hard that finally she was just like, okay.
I'm just like, I don't
Similar
care
to your flip, I
anymore.
think. That she's like,
Yeah.
okay, you can just do it.
Yeah. But
Just-
I've only got now I've recognized firm no's. I've learned that lesson because my wife's always right. Her gut instinct is always right. It's the soft no's where I kind of used to push a lot more, and we have an 8 unit because of it. It's worked out, but I've just resigned to the fact, like, I want to have a happy home life and I don't want to have conflict. And it's like, we have enough right now. So it's, let her do her lane and just trust. It's hard. It's hard because you see people on Bigger Pockets. You see people on these podcasts. You see, JS21 Homes. You see all these guys that are crushing it, right? And you're like, I can do this as a hunter. And then it's like, but is it worth it? Do we really need to do it? That's, that bring balance to life of, like, my wife's like, let's travel. Let's enjoy our kids. Let's do family. It's like, I forget about those things.
And how long have you and Chrissy worked together as partners in the business?
The whole time, 6 years, 6.5 years. Yeah. We started together. She was the first one to quit. That did not go very well. Then I quit, and then my ego was huge. It's been very difficult, but we've got to, I think, to a good point right now where it's just, it's basically like we have 2 separate jobs. She comes home and tells me about the multifamily stuff she's doing. Like, hey, we kicked everybody out at this apartment complex after we bought it day one. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I had nothing to do with it. It's like we have 2 different jobs now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like that just comes from some of the experience of figuring out what you can do and what you can't do and what you like and what you don't like. I mean, coming into a year and a half working together, I think we're still hashing it out too. There's still a lot of optimization that could go on.
Yeah.
And
This just
yeah.
fully separated probably last 2 years ago, maybe right when we bought our first 24 unit in 2020. It's kind of when it really kind of went that way. So it takes time.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like part of it is I like having Michael as a partner because it's somebody that I have a sounding board to, like, how do I respond to this offer? And I can just ask him, like, what would you say in this scenario, or how would you respond? And it's nice having that person. And sometimes, I mean, the problem is that we love real estate so much that we take it home with us. And so, like, all of our conversations are about real estate, and I'm not upset about that. Like, I love this job. I'm living the dream right now,
Yeah.
So
The problem is when my wife wants to talk about finances at 9:30 at night, when, I'm trying to do husband and wife things, and she's like, oh, let's talk about numbers. And I'm like, no, stop talking.
Yeah.
that part, I'm like, I'm not listening. Sometimes I have to tell Michael I'm not listening. Like, I
She'll
can't absorb anymore.
Straight up go to sleep on me. Like, she'll just
Yeah.
turn over and fall asleep as I'm talking if it gets that bad. But I mean, realistically, I think some of that is margin too. That's one of the reasons why we're starting to staff up right now, even as the market is slowing down, because we want to get that margin where maybe we can talk about finances like over a long lunch on a Wednesday instead of having it be at 9:30 after our kids go to bed, because that's the only time that we have free in the entire day to sit and talk about our business together.
One of the other things that we're also working on is, like, actually taking time off. We hired an assistant that started full time this week, and talking about doing, like, a mini retirement. Not sure what that is, but we're working on that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we traveled over 100 days last year. And then now my wife's working a ton. She's probably working 50 or 60 hours. But we worked when we traveled. But now she's hiring people so she can spend more time. Because she does want to be a mom. She wants to go to the farmer's market on Friday. She wants to take time off. But she also wants to be involved. My wife likes to be in control. I don't know. She needs to be in control in a lot of things and have her hands on stuff because she does things so well. But it's hard to let go sometimes.
Yeah. Have you and your wife done any kind of, like, Enneagrams, strength finders, kind
Or
of
like
stuff
personality
together.
type.
Oh, we've done all of them. So literally, one of the ones that we just did, I came out as a rainmaker. She came up, I don't remember exactly what she was. The girl that the girl that did it, they pay for it through their company. So I just did it through their company because it's expensive. She told me after she looked at our tests that she went to her boss. She's like, "How the hell are these two people married?" Like, literally, we are the farthest opposite of each other as you could possibly be in every way. And Jess, you made a comment earlier about you like Michael because he pulls you up, right, and pushes you up. Well, that's how it's been because like I'm getting Chrissy out of her comfort zone, but she's also getting me to be more like her, right? And so, but yeah, we are completely opposite in every freaking way.
Yeah. And then I think the trick is figuring out how to take the best out of each other instead of taking the worst.
Yeah.
Right. Still being you, but learning from the different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hard part is we found is working together is shutting off work and business from personal. Like even if you're talking in personal about business, shutting off is like, I'm not critiquing you or, taking it the right way of like how the other person talks. Like instead of taking it as a negative, like they're attacking you saying you're not doing your job right, more as just, we're just talking, right? That's one thing we've had a hard time for both of us. Like we're on the defense a lot in those areas. Cause like we want to do so good and be, we're accountable to the other person, but it seems like if you say something just a little bit wrong, it could be like, why didn't you do it this way? And that's not like, so that's the thing we've found really hard is how do you have conversations without getting defensive?
Yeah. And I mean, we've done couples counseling, it's almost like you need a third party counselor, coach, or like business coach even, that you guys can kind of filter that through. So the feedback is coming from someone outside the marriage. Cause I don't think that's unique to you. We get super defensive with each other all the time too.
Yeah. And I think that what the therapists talk to us a lot about is like just communicating, like knowing that we have each other's best interests at heart and we're on the same team, and learning how to talk to each other, because somebody we've been in a relationship with a long time, but learning how to communicate in a business setting is a lot different.
Yeah. Because it's hard because you bring emotions into it, right? So yeah, we are in couples therapy right now to learn those things, right? Because it's just a lot of life. But I wouldn't change it. So anybody that's listening, this is not to scare you. This is like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I think it's fantastic because I get to see my partner thrive. Like that's why, like I talked about me stepping back. Like she's been behind the scenes for the last 6 years. Like me stepping back and letting her thrive right now, so she didn't feel guilty, as a mom, and like doing the stuff around the house or trying to do all those things. It's like I'm seeing her thrive, and she's doing so freaking good. She doesn't realize how good she's doing, and it's fun. It's cool to see that, right? It's like seeing your kid, read or do something really cool for the first time. It's just like, but do really, really well. So that's what I think brings me a lot of joy. Would you guys say this? Like, do you guys see that in each other? Can you guys coach, give each other feedback? Do you see the growth? Are you guys doing like those things together? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think outside of the kind of the late night stressful situations where you're tempted to just burn the whole thing down and say, we should just work separately. We should just close this thing up. This isn't working. Like outside of those moments of pain, there are so many like really great moments of us getting to see each other in action and see each other at their best, and also kind of see each other through a different lens. Like I really love it when Jess like puts on her realtor outfit and like rocks a listing, because like I don't get to see her at work, or as an engineer, I didn't get to see her at work like really like coming at it and impressing people and doing a great job. So that's like a side of your spouse that you don't really get to see if you're just kind of coming home and everyone's tired and off their A game. Right. So
yeah, I like seeing my wife get ready in the morning sometimes and just being the boss. And she's like, I got to set the tone. She's showing up early because this guy quit last week. And I just see her and I'm like, you are smoking freaking hot. Like you're not only like hot, but you're a boss. And it just like, it's cool because it's not just a job, right? It's like your future, your legacy, right? That she's building.
Yeah.
And we're working on it together, and it's fun to be dreaming and building this business with your best friend and somebody that you like. If you are working at a typical job, you can have a disagreement with your coworker and go home and not like your coworker. But here it's like, well, I need to fix this. Like I actually need to fix this because it matters.
You gotta have hard conversations. So
yeah.
So let's shift a little bit more. sorry, rabbit trail. If I rabbit trail that, I just find it, I haven't talked to very many couples before. And I just, not only I'm like, okay, we're not alone too. And then it makes me, I want to go tell my wife how awesome she is a little bit more after this conversation. Right. So yeah. So you guys are doing 40 transactions last year, you said, on the realtor side. You're helping people find investment properties, and then you're buying rentals yourself, or?
Yeah, exactly. So we're still building our own portfolio with at least 1 or 2 buys a year. We're at 5 short-term rentals and 5 long-term rentals right now, which isn't a ton of doors, but they're all local. So in terms of like asset value and cash flow, we're sitting pretty well to the point
cash
where,
flow a month.
Gosh, one of the things we focused on this year, and one of the things that Jess is like really the driving force behind, is actually knowing how much money we're making.
Yeah, dude, it's never gonna be. The problem is there's so much money coming in from so many different places and going out. It's so difficult.
And as soon as we get money, we're like throwing that back into real estate. So it's just like we're doing projects all the time.
And that's a great experience for me because I have this bag and I'm just stuffing money in it as fast as I can. And it takes someone like Jess to point out that I got holes in my bag and the money is like not really staying in there. I mean, we have a lot of units offline for renovations right now, but gross revenue from our properties is going to be about $350,000 a year once we're complete with a couple of renovations here. And I'm not sure exactly, since we're moving a lot of money around and doing refis and private money, but a significant portion, probably maybe 30% of that will end up being cash flow, somewhere around 100.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So what is your guys, because you're doing a lot of different things right now. So like I saw also you guys are building a condo or building a townhome with Justin.
Yeah. Jared and us are having
Jared. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, we're doing a condoized DADU with him, new construction.
Yeah.
Nice. So how are you balancing like doing so many different things? Like, that's something I would do personally, and I always have to come back to like just buying single family houses and wholesaling them, and then just multifamily things like that. How have you done that well? It seems like you're still growing, and how have you been able to do so many different things?
I think it's personality type a little bit, right? Whether we're doing them well or not, I think that I at least thrive with a little bit of learning and a little bit of uncertainty in all these deals that we tackle. So we're kind of finding what we're good at still. We're still early enough in the business that we're not at a point where we're saying no to things just because we don't know how to do them. We're saying yes to things, and then at the end of them saying, hey, did that go well? Did we make money? Is this the kind of project that we want to take on? Do we want to double down on this, or do we want to kind of cross this off the list? So part of it is just being open to saying yes. And then part of it is probably going to kind of start slowing down now that Jess is more involved in the business. But I'm always the type of person that like really wants to try something new every single day. And that's also not the most profitable investment.
No, it's not. Yes. Chrissy has basically said, okay, you can do those things. I want to know nothing and have zero involvement. So like I have a call center with Cole John from Seattle. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a younger kid in Seattle that crushes wholesaling. So we have a call center in Egypt, almost 100 callers now. Then I'm doing a comp plan change, 200 unit. We're going to go from commercial to residential for a 200 unit apartment complex. Then we're building some multifamily. So basically I just have to find the partners that will do it with me and kind of be my Chrissy almost. But like, I just, I can still be the hunter, right? Like you said earlier, I hunt, find the deals and go learn new things, but then they find operators. And that's how I've been able to do that and keep her sanity. Yeah. So that's kind of, as you keep growing, I mean, that's just a thought process. Go find somebody that's really good at one thing. Like my buddy, he's really good at building and dealing with, people like you at the city. I'm Jess, and going through those processes, but I'm also really good. I'm better at finding opportunities and seeing things that most people don't, because I read the zoning code or read the taxes and read all these new things, so I can see things. So he needs me just as much as I need him, right? And it's actually pretty nice. As I like it that way. So, what else? What's your guys' plan for this year? Like you said, you were going to ramp up and hire more employees.
Yeah, we've been building our team. So I brought on 3 newer agents to work underneath us as buyer's agents, about 50% on my leads and 50% on their own. So we're at a stage where we're again kind of trying things. And right now the growth opportunity that we see in our business is a little bit more on the real estate agent side with where the market's at here in Seattle and the cash flow numbers that we're seeing. We're not gobbling up deals as quickly as we were in years past. So we're really trying to build a machine that is investor focused, systematize all these processes that have brought investors to work with Jess and I in the past, so that more beginning agents and people that have one rental or are just getting started can do the same on our team.
So I just did these numbers, and I'll ask you guys' opinion because I just went through like 10 different MSAs. So Seattle from 2015 to 2020, they were up 53%. From 2020 to 2022, they were up 48%, from 575 to 850 on median pricing. I saw from January this year, they went up, I think the median was 710 to like 850 it hit in April. Because everybody's ramping up, I think, with interest rates we're getting there. What are your guys' thoughts on the market? You just said you're going to slow down buying. Like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing from buyers that you're talking to? What are your concerns? Obviously, none of us were there when it crashed. We didn't experience it. So that's my concern, right? Is I don't know what I don't know. What are you guys seeing on the ground?
Yeah. Do you want to talk to that at all?
You go.
I'm a little bit more on the asset side, on the marketing side, on the boots on the ground
You're also
side.
an
I'd love to hear both your opinions.
Yeah.
I think you guys both have valid things. And so, Jess, you're on the listing side. You can talk there. And you're more on the buyer side. So I'd love to hear what your clients are saying.
Yeah, so we just had 2 listings go live, and it was a little bit tougher. Our sellers were expecting a bunch of offers and it to go quickly, and it didn't happen. We priced a little too high, and we got traffic. It was a little bit tougher to get it sold. Interest rates are higher, and I think.
What price point? I'm gonna ask, try to get details. Just over $1 million. And at what part? Is it in Seattle?
It was north of Seattle, north of the lake. It was called Kenmore.
Okay, so traditional. Is it a good area? Like, is it
Yeah, it has great
very good core
schools.
area?
It's kind of like a family neighborhood. This house was just had a unique layout, and that was one of the things. So our buyers are getting a little bit more picky about what they want, and they're not going to settle now that interest rates are higher.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, on the buyer side, we've definitely had a lot of buyers atrophy out of the market saying, hey, it's hit its peak, a crash is coming, right? Part of it is algorithms, right? But when I get on YouTube, the same as I think a lot of real estate investors, everything is the crash is here, the crash is here, the crash is
everything.
And I click on it, which is why these people are making these videos, right? Not necessarily because they're PhD economics students or anything like that, but I click on it and I watch it, right? So this is in buyers' heads, and I'm getting emails sent to me with articles from HuffPost or whoever else about how the real estate market's overpriced. So I do think that it's hard to find deals right now, and I think that we may see some softening in prices, but at the same time, this is what I kind of always ask people is, where else are you going to put your money? Right? If it was a situation where the real estate market was really hard to make deals happen in, and the stock market was killing it, or cryptocurrency was killing it, or bonds were killing it, or cash was killing it, it'd be a different equation. But the reality is there's a lot of money in the system looking for a return, right? And although real estate doesn't look as good now as it did 2 years ago, neither do stocks, right? So at some point, you just have to make deals happen with the economy that you have and the market that you have, because long-term, you're always going to lose if you're sitting on the sidelines, right? That's one thing that we know for sure is that you got to invest.
So here's what I saw. So in 2015, I went through and got all the interest rates. 2015, for a median house, your payment was $1,651 and your rates were $367, right? In January of this year, your median was, with the payment and the interest rate of, $345. What in January was $3168. In April, $4553. So my thoughts are, it's gonna go back to January. Just everybody try to jump it in there. It's gonna slow down, but you can't sustain that. 31's probably okay in Seattle, right? But that's it's like they're trying to make a self-fulfilling prophecy of the market crashing, like you said, with all these negative headlines. So how do you guys talk to buyers or listings and say, how do you get past those objections? Because those are new objections that you haven't had to face.
Yeah, I know you talked on the listing side about just setting expectations right? The reality is that we've been told this narrative for a really long time that everything sells and everything sells way over ask. And some of our clients, that listing in Kenmore, they said, oh, my colleague at work was like, oh, your house hasn't sold yet? I thought it would sell immediately. My neighbor was like, oh, your house hasn't sold yet? I thought it would sell immediately. And it's like, well, do those neighbors know your house? Do those neighbors know the market, right? At some point, we're kind of shifting the narrative now where you actually need to know what's happening, right?
Yeah, you have to know. You can't just
pair it out. Oh, it's a hot market. Yeah. Oh, everyone's investing in real estate. Oh, everything's going over ask. You actually have to be looking at the numbers and paying attention because
the market's going.
It's less clear what's happening, which is important. And I think it's a chance for folks like you and I and Jess to stand out as people that are actually paying attention and actually willing to like dive deep and look at what's really happening, rather than folks that just read online news articles and watch videos, right? So that's a huge opportunity. And
also doing creative deals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're still buying because we're able to find properties that work for our criteria, right? And now that it's not a market where you can throw money at almost any property and watch it double in 4 to 5 years, people are going to get weeded out, and the creative, smart, aggressive people that actually have a competitive advantage, I think, are going to do twice as well. Because the biggest struggle over the last few years has been competition, right? Just everyone wants to buy these properties, and competition is huge. So I think making it a little harder for everybody could be good for folks like.
That's why I think you guys are so smart for pushing on the gas. You guys just hired 3 agents. I think, and I've talked about this before, this is the time to push on the gas and go for it, because everybody is like a part-time agent or doesn't know what the hell they're doing. It's going to go to the wayside. And if you just got to learn how to speak a different language, and if you know your numbers, you win, right? So kudos to you guys for doing that. I think that's very smart. I think you guys are very wise for doing that.
And to keep buying. I don't think that this is a reason to slow down on real estate. Honestly, we're going to keep buying through if whatever happens.
What are your guys' biggest downsides, risks? In your portfolio, what do you think the risks are?
We're pretty heavy on Airbnb right now, right? So there is a lot of legislative risk in Airbnb with new codes being passed pretty frequently. But one of the reasons why our Airbnb business has taken off and why we're working with so many clients who want to buy Airbnbs in the Northwest is that if you know what you're doing, you can see the warning signs in each of these cities, right? So we weren't investing in Leavenworth, Chelan because it was clear that regulations were going to pass there. Island County, Whitby, we're worried about. We're investing in like unincorporated King County, where it's like, good luck finding a city inspector out there, right? It's the boonies. No one really cares what you're doing out there. And there aren't people at any of those city council meetings talking about any meaningful regulation on short-term rentals. So kind of hedging our bets there a little bit. And then I think the other risk is, realistically, our business has grown significantly because we work with investors, and it's been a great time for new people to invest in real estate. There's so many podcasts and resources and books and everything to get started. And I hope that people will continue. I hope that it being a little harder won't discourage everyone to give up on real estate investing, because it's changed our life and it's changed a lot of the people we worked with lives. But I know that's a risk. There's a chance that people will say, oh, the market's not good for investing anymore, and they'll close up shop, right?
Yeah. The nice thing is you've worked with a very small group of buyers and sellers, right? That you've niched that out really well. There's still a lot of market you can go to. And if you're a good agent, you're a good agent, right? It is what it is. So you should be able to grow. I feel like you guys have done a lot of things really, really well in a short period of time. How is working with Jared, like under his umbrella? Why work under his umbrella of his company, and why not do your own Compass team or things like that?
Yeah, good question. We've got this little group. So one nice thing about working under Jared is that we've been allowed to build our own team within the team, which is helpful. And just logistically speaking, not needing all of the right licenses to be able to operate a team and getting all of that set up adds a little bit of it. And then we kind of talked about the skill set that Jess has and I have and you have and Chrissy has. Neither of us are really that good at working with contractors. So that's always been a pain point in our business, is like, how do we do a statement of work that actually follows through? We're hiring these handymen that are $25 an hour and may or may not have a drug problem, right? Like at some point we need to build a real
Which one?
Yeah. No,
What are we talking about?
we're coming straight from another no-show contractor this morning.
But yeah, Jared has the flipping side that was really attractive to us, and we're like, he understands the flipping side, and we had done a lot of rehabs, but never, I mean, it was something that we had to learn and we needed to learn, and Jared has definitely provided that resource for us. Contractor resources, just how to work with contractors, creating a list of materials that, like, this is what I hand to the contractor, like these are all my materials laid out, this is what we need to order. So there was that side that was really appealing, because we thought about, we're like, do we want to go to Compass, or do we want to like go to EXP and build like a huge mega team, and so.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we're at the stage of our business where all these doors are open, right? So that doesn't mean that we won't do something like that in the future, but we've always just been kind of picking off the next kind of level, right? And over the last few years, the next level has been getting really good at working with contractors and working with clients, right? And once we get that, maybe we'll pivot and we'll find another person that we can learn from, or find another resource that we can build on, but trying to make sure to kind of understand where we're weak and surround ourselves with people that are strong there, I think is one of the most important things that has got us to where we are right now.
I think that's, super, super good statement. Because you can't be good at everything. And the nice thing is, Jared's fun to work with. Jared's a great guy. Like, if you showed up to the office, he's just a cool dude. I mean, I always make fun of him, like his hair, because his hair's always got to be perfect, and but he's a good guy. He's smart. He's grown exponentially. He's a giver. He wants to help people, see them succeed. So I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, just working with good people this business gets very lonely. I don't know if you guys have had that, but it's very lonely. It's hard to have friends that are our age, that other couples, because we found as that work normal jobs, it's hard because you can't talk about these things. So I don't know. Have you guys found that to be true as well as a couple? Like, just lonely? Are you guys in your church a lot more? How has that been for you guys? Like, community wise, like.
Yeah. Seattle freeze is real.
Yeah. Two of our closest friends just moved to Wisconsin, and we're counting our friends now and thinking that we might need to make some more. So if you're in the Seattle area and you love real estate, hit us up.
Yeah, that's funny. My wife, we booked this last minute Airbnb. Like, it was a great deal on the coast, and so we're like, who do we invite? We had like one person. Then it went to my parents. That was the next in line.
Yeah, with the kids. I mean, we can have a play date.
Yeah, we totally can. Hey, by the way, if you guys want, we're staying at the coast. Not this next week, but the week after, like Walport. We have a huge 3 king bedrooms. If you guys want to come for a couple days, by all means, come. Just stay.
Nice. This making the connection. Yeah. Are we in town?
I know. Actually, I think we're going to the Limitless Expo.
Oh yeah, Charles is gonna be mad at me because I'm not going.
Yeah.
Because he called me like 2 weeks. I said I'm not going unless I'm speaking, and then I'm just not gonna go either way. So yeah, but if you're not there all week, we got a spot.
Nice.
Okay.
The kids can, the 3-year-olds can play.
Yeah.
So awesome. So where can people find you? Looks like you guys are on Instagram. Can you say a little bit about where you're at and what you're trying to find from other people in this business?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to network. We're always open to grab coffee. Our 2 big businesses are our personal portfolio and our kind of client business. So happy to talk about both of ours. Our website is just House Hack Seattle. It's just househackseattle.com. And it's got our Instagrams on it. Jess is super active on Instagram.
My handle is a little bit confusing. It's called Wabi Sabi Property.
It's in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram. It's just Michael Joe J-O Haas. We're decently active on there. No promises, but hit us up sometime.
Yeah. We're more communicative on the phone or text, less on social media. But I mean, we're happy to I think the biggest thing for us is we love talking about this. I mean, like I said earlier, we talk about this when we go home. And so anybody who wants to talk about real estate, I mean, hit us up.
Yeah, it's addicting. So my partner said he's been doing it for 25 years. It's like, you got to do it. You just can't stop, right? It's just addicting. Cool. Awesome, guys. Let's connect offline. Really appreciate having you guys both on. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for your patience with me as well.
Yeah.
Hey, really appreciate it, Elliot. Good to connect with you, man.
Thanks.